Welcome, my friends, my family, my fellow gamers. This is your boy Porter Rock 77, your only friend in these YouTube streets. Coming back at you with another video. Check out the description box there. You see the link to my Twitter. Hit me up there with a follow so we could continue the conversation. If you're new to the channel, welcome aboard. I hope you stick around by hitting the subscribe button and, of course, hit that bell for notifications. And everybody, when you get the chance at some point in this video, I would truly appreciate it if you hit the like button. All right? So anyway, let's talk about PlayStation 5 a little bit and start off something else. So this year, Sony's having a kind of like a closed event known as PlayStation DevCon, and it's going to be out in London this year, 2018. And registrations are already closed for the developers who are going to be part of that, but it's a closed insider event. It's not like, you know, Paris Games Week or PlayStation Experience or anything like that. This is strictly for developers and industry. You know, this is pretty much a closed environment. You know, that's why they call it Developers Convention, right? And rumor has it the PlayStation 5, or this is going to be the introduction of the PlayStation 5 to developers, all right? If true, I guarantee we're going to see much more leaks about the PlayStation 5, similar to how PlayStation Neo was leaked, which was now known as PlayStation Pro and stuff like that. So we'll probably see more leaks. Now, the question is, does this mean that we're closer to next generation with, you know, the PlayStation 5, you know? Pretty interesting, because if this rumor is true and Sony does reveal the PlayStation 5 internally to the developers, I don't see how Sony could still be on the hush-hush of the PlayStation 5 all of 2019 and then a reveal in 2020. That is incredibly a long time, you know? Now, if they reveal like a prototype, not the finished product, then okay, that makes sense, because they may want developer input, which is highly important when you want to create a new console for the next generation, because those are the people that's going to make your games. What do you want? This is so far, you know, Sony comes out and be like, hey, this is our idea. This is what we've been doing. This is what I'm sure Sony's been using their own first-party developers to give them cues. They're going to go to third parties. Hey, look at it. What do you think? You know, especially third-party developers, they're going to be the ones to be like, well, we plan to use the next generation of Unreal Engine, the next generation of this. Or we plan to create these tool sets. We plan to do that, whatever. All these inputs will help build the PlayStation 5. So this could be something where it's a prototype to the PlayStation 5, which will help Sony further develop the console that the industry wants, that satisfies both the third-party industry needs and, of course, their own first-party industry needs, which is the smart way. This is what Sony did with the PlayStation 4. They went out to the developers and be like, hey, this is how it is. That's why there's a lot of things about the PlayStation 4 that they didn't have. Believe it or not, PlayStation 4 was supposed to be similar to Xbox One, in the sense that it was supposed to have ES RAM, all right? Well, in this case, it was going to have ED RAM, you know, in the same right on the die, similar to what Xbox has with the ES RAM. Oddly enough, the developers told Sony, no, we don't want that. We don't want that. Just have a dedicated unified pool of RAM, which is what Sony went. You know, which is kind of funny, because Microsoft did the opposite of something that the developers told Sony not to do, you know? So it's great to listen to developers. It's great to give them the opportunity to be like, hey, this is our plan for the PlayStation 5. Does this cut it? Does this meet the desired end state or the hardware of what next generation gaming, right? Now, exactly what the component is, there's a whole bunch of guesses. But I think it's going to be AMD related. I think right now AMD's been great with the console manufacturers, so I see both Microsoft and Sony still using AMD. The question is, what's going to be the architecture? Most likely it's going to be Ryzen and Vega. That's the most common theme. The components are already out. It's already available. It's cheaper to just buy what's already, it's easier to buy just what's already off the shelf and then just customize it to the needs of the console. Right? That's what makes more sense, because Ryzen's already been out for a while. I think it came out last year or whatever, and AMD's already out. So those components are already out. All right? So they're on the shelf. They're easy. They're already being manufactured. All they got to do is just customize it to the needs of the console, right? Throw in a little small, tiny wrench in that plan. So rumors, and I say, and I really point out huge rumor. You know, rumor as in counted as 0.01% possibility of being true, but there is a rumor and talk that Sony from the start was in cahoots, maybe that's a bad word, in partnership, whatever, with AMD to create the Navi architecture, right? Now, again, that is a very low rumor, right? But I will say it won't surprise me because the one thing about Sony is they do love tech. They love creating hardware. They love creating stuff, right? They're just not totally dedicated in that partnership no more. Sony used to create their own specific hardware for the PlayStation brand. You know what I'm saying? They used to create their own GPU. They made their motion cell processor. They made the cell, their motion engine. They used to create that stuff for their own consoles. With PS4, they went full third party, which is AMD. But I wouldn't be surprised with their version of PlayStation 5, they want to do something special in partnership with AMD. But again, complete rumor. Most likely the most obvious is the whole Ryzen Vega combo and stuff like that. All right? Now here's my thing, and this is what I wanted to talk about. What do I not want Sony to do when it comes to the future of gaming in PlayStation 5 and next generation? These are the things I'm afraid of and I'm concerned. Number one, Sony has a bad habit of jumping on the new hotness other people do without consideration of whether it's a fad or if it fits in their vision, all right? For example, the Move controllers and all that weird shit. Sony always tries to find a way to jump on something because it's the new hotness, they copy. Now, sometimes copying is good, you know what I'm saying? I have no legitimate bashing towards copy. I know a lot of gamers, when we talk about innovation, whatever, oh, Sony don't innovate. I'll be honest, I don't really care about innovation or not. Somebody innovates gaming, that is great, but what's more important, do the right people know what to copy, So that's what I like about Sony. When Sony copied the achievement system with trophies, that's what you're supposed to do, When Sony copied analog sticks from Nintendo, that's what you're supposed to do. Those are the things you need to do, right? You copy from the best practices in industry. My concern is this whole mobile hybrid thing that Nintendo did with the Switch. Nintendo has amazing success with the Switch. It's flying off the shelves, and their first-party games are selling like hotcakes, right? So they're doing fantastic, right? I'm afraid Sony might try to dive into that little world, whatever, not knowing the reason why Nintendo's so successful at it is because the Nintendo name and mobile gaming is already hand in hand. They're already trusted. They've been the most dominant force in mobile gaming, in terms of dedicated handheld devices. They already had that unlocked. Nintendo has always created the most successful handhelds in gaming since day one. Since day one, they introduced the Game Boy. They've always been that. In fact, their handheld has been more successful than their consoles. All right? They have consistently dominated the industry over and over. So the Nintendo Switch, a huge part of its success is its mobility and being a handheld device. People trust that. People know, a Nintendo device that I could take, I understand that, people buy it. Sony don't have that, right? Take, for example, their two attempts at mobile. First, you got PSP, right? Sold 80 million, and everybody's like, oh, that's great. That's a great first attempt. Let's mind you, number one, the PSP ran with the success that the PS1 and PS2 created for Sony. From the makers of the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 comes their first portable handheld, the PlayStation Portable. That was a huge factor that sold, the PlayStation, that device, okay? The second thing, right? It sold 80 million, right? And people say it's amazing, but notice it only sold as much as the PS3, which is not amazing sales for PlayStation. So Sony's best jab at handheld is as good as Sony's worst jab on consoles, okay? But here's the big kicker. PlayStation 3 sold incredibly much more games than PSP. So they both sold 80 million, and PSP is nowhere near the actual game sales of PS3. So what does that tell you? People were not really buying games on the PSP. In fact, people bought it, and most people put it in the closet, right? Most people didn't play it. A lot of people that did play it was because of the homebrews and being able to play PS1 games and all that stuff. A lot of people were doing that. It just wasn't a successful device, right? Now, forward over to their second attempt, the Vita, absolute disaster. It was a complete disaster. It's so like crap. The game so like crap. Sure, beautiful technology, but that's all that means. It doesn't really mean anything. Most people did not buy it because I guarantee majority of people that bought the PSP, they didn't play their PSP. So they didn't care about going out and buying another Sony handheld when they didn't even care about the first one. So my concern is PS5 having something to do with mobile gaming, which is be the dumbest move Sony can make. In this industry now more than ever, Microsoft, let's look at Microsoft real quick. They're pretty much not focusing on their console. They're focusing on this whole idea of, they're pretty much kind of like a quasi third-party developer now that makes devices or platforms, right? That makes a device, right? But for the most part, Microsoft is more concerned about the game sales, no matter where it's sold, on PC or this new cloud streaming. Vice trying to make a specific device the best device and the most device that people want and have to have. Microsoft's not interested in saying you have to have an Xbox console because it's the only way to do this in terms of gaming. Microsoft's not interested in that. So in reality, there's only two companies now that are truly focused on their specific device. That's Nintendo and Sony. You see Nintendo's direction. Their direction is making these hybrid devices, right? Because I'm pretty sure after the Switch, they're going to continue with hybrid devices. I don't think they're going to go back to dedicated consoles. Generally speaking, if you look at Nintendo's overall picture in home consoles, they haven't been truly that much successful. Nintendo and Super NES, very successful for their time, but the N64 got destroyed by PlayStation 1. GameCube got destroyed by PlayStation 2. We saw a resurgence and probably their most successful console in terms of sales and game sales, right? But look what they had to do it. You know, it wasn't up to date with the current generation technology, meaning when we jumped to HD, and there was a lot of casual games and stuff like that, and it relied on a fan base that wasn't going to come back. Hence now the Wii U, complete failure. You know, probably the second worst home platform Nintendo release outside, you know, the worst being the Virtual Boy. All right, complete disaster. But now Nintendo found something that they could carve in their own niche, which is hybrid gaming. You know, you could play, it's a mobile device that you can also play at home. I think that's their cookie, that's their niche, and I think they're going to continue with that with the Switch 2, with Switch 3, and I think it will always be successful because it is something Nintendo do, and people will appreciate that, right? So you got Nintendo doing their mobile hybrid thing, right? Microsoft, they're just trying to put anything on anything. You know, they're just throwing whatever on the wall and see what sticks, right? So who's our dedicated console device to ensure that this device provides the best experiences, especially when it comes to games? Who's left? It's only Sony. Sony's really the only one left that's bringing a dedicated device, and that dedicated device is the priority. It is the focus of effort. It is what the company is basing its gaming enjoyment to the consumer, right? Sony's the only one doing that. Nintendo's doing this mobile thing. Microsoft's just doing anything to do anything. PC, tablet, phone, they're just whatever. It's whatever to them now. Sony's really the only one left with the traditional model of home consoles, right? And I'm telling you, there's a lot of us that want that. We want to buy a device, a home device, and when we get it and we pay money, you know, we have an expectation from that device, right? We don't want to worry about if the first party's making games for our platform, you know, or stuff like that. We don't want to know weird stuff, right? We don't want an experience designed for mobile or any weird stuff like that. We want the company who makes the device to put their focus on the device and give it the best possible experience we can get in terms of gaming. Sony is the only one doing that for the dedicated home console device, all right? So that's what PlayStation 5 needs to be. It doesn't need to be a gimmick. The console is going to explode with success because it's doing the last thing, it's doing the only thing, let me rephrase that, is doing the very thing that gamers want and nobody else wants to do for whatever reason, you know? So at that point, I see PlayStation 5 possibly being even more successful than the PlayStation 4 now. And the simple fact is, it's literally the only product that's doing what it's supposed to be doing if Sony puts its focus on the device. You know, there'll be no question that when people buy a PlayStation 5, it's going to have exclusives built for that platform. You know, it's just how it is. It's going to have amazing third-party support from all across the globe. Yes, we're still going to have our Japanese games. Sony's all about the one and done, which is an insult. You know, great single-player experiences. Lots of people play multiplayer games on that stuff. It's doing it all in terms of great gaming experiences, right? So the one thing I don't want to see Sony does is into this mobile stuff. Number two, what I don't want to see Sony does. I plan to get a VR at some point, whatever, right? And I think it's a great peripheral. It's a great device to enhance the gaming experience. It's a great option for people to buy and enjoy with the platform. What I don't want Sony to do is now combine that device, package it with the PS4 for the sake that Sony wants VR to be the standard way to play. So they had kind of like what Microsoft did with Kinect. They package it just to ensure it spreads. But now PlayStation 5 is priced out of the range of consumers who are not really interested in VR in the first place. They don't want to pay the extra money for something they're not really interested in. So that's number 2. Don't include VR in every box. You know, if you want, create a small, you know, low density, low quantity special bundle deal. You know, the VR bundle deal. Small amount, small quantity. You know what I'm saying? At a good price that would be cheaper if you were to buy the VR and the PlayStation 5 separately, you know. That way, for those who are really, really interested, they could save like $50 or whatever. That's cool. Small special bundle. But do not make it the standard. Keep PlayStation 5 just a PlayStation 5. Because, again, that's all people really want. That's what the majority wants, okay? But the small minority that wants, you know, the hardcore whatever, you know, a package special VR deal here or there, $50 cheaper than if you were to buy the new headset or whatever separately, you know? That's not bad, you know? But don't make that the standard. People need to understand this is the PlayStation 5 and it has to be in an affordable price range. Of course, wishful thinking, I would like to still see the $400 price range. I still think the $400 price range is the best range that there is. Now, if the $400 price range is not feasible because the technology to make next generation significant in performance has to price the console $500, then it is what it is. Because I'm pretty sure if Sony's going to have that issue, then Microsoft's going to have that issue as well. So now every console is $500, right? In that environment, expect slower sales at the forefront. Again, big, huge console sales come at the $300 and lower price range. That's just the reality. It comes at that window, all right? Excuse me, I just want to make sure this doesn't happen, all right? That's just the reality. So if Sony could launch the PlayStation 5 at $400, right? Obviously, the following year is still going to stay at $400, right? But then the second year, right, you'll see a $350 price range. And then the year after that, maybe $300. You see how fast you get to $300? Only take about 2 years and you're already in the $300. And then by the third year, you're at $300. Then after that, you're below the $300 range. But now you start at $500, right? You start at $500. The following year, you're still at $500. Then the following year, a $50 price drop, you have $450. You see what I'm saying? It's going to take a really long time. Hell, it's going to take like 3 years just to get to 400 at that starting point, let alone be closer to 300 without some weird trade-ins and all that stuff, you know? So for the sake of the industry, for the sake of mass adoption of these platforms, $400 is a good price point to launch with. But I understand the $400 price point might not be the price to get the right technology for the industry and for the first-party developers. Now, notice I said the right technology. I always said this. I am not a big super fan of graphics and the best performer. You know what I'm saying? Best performance. I never really hyped that. I just hyped good performance to allow the developers what they need to do. But I was never the type to be like, I only own consoles that gives me the best performance. For me, one, that's oxymoron, because if you want the best performance, I would be PC gaming. You know, that's the platform that you will always get the best performance. You know, consoles, I expect good performance, good overall library. Mostly, it's all about the games for me and the games experiences, you know. And the platform that has the best games experiences in the most games, that's the platform I'm always going to pick, you know. And so far, PlayStation has been knocking it out the park in that case, all right? So, those are my two things. Those are my two main things, all right? I could think of more, but there's like nitpick and stuff like that. My main thing is, Sony, don't jump on the hype train. Stick to what you know. Stick to what is needed, because you'll probably be the only manufacturer that will fully be dedicated to bringing out the best console experience for those who buy the PlayStation 5. All right? That's number one. And then number two, don't do the whole combined VR thing right out the gate on every SKU. Don't do that. Still support VR. It's a great option. Great for those people who want to adopt to it. I hope it gets bigger and more adopt, whatever. But don't force people to jump on the train. All right? Now, anyway, let me know what you think. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Thank you so much for joining. I will check you out later on with another video. This is your boy, PorterRock77, your only friend in these YouTube streets. Peace.